All right, so today is the last part file for Mini Train, and it is the straight track, which is going to be most of it is just a block that is 3.4 inches wide, 12 inches long, and 1 inch thick or tall. And then on either end, there's a similar cutaway. There's the cutaway on this side, and then on this side, there is the addition something nub that would, in theory, connect to this side if you had a bunch of them. And the dimensions are slightly different. Like the radius of this is smaller than the radius of this. Because in theory, if they were made out of wood, you'd want a little bit of a tolerance in order for them to fit, but that's moot at this point. So there's that cutaway and this sort of nub part, and then there are little sort of troughs that run the length. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to need a new part studio, and let's look at the top. Let's rename this to straight track, and let's do some full screen. All right, so depending on how we want to make it, we'll choose a different face or origin plane to start on. I'm going to start drawing on the origin plane called top, which is like the flat surface, just because that's the shape I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with essentially the footprint of this, which is 3.4 inches this way and 12 inches this way, and extruded its height, which is 1 inch. So let's get we're going to sketch on the face that says top, and then we'll get a rectangle. Let's look at it straight on, make a rectangle any size and dimension it to 12 this way. And actually, hold on a second. I want to get the software, the other program that highlights my cursor. So give me a second here. And like this. And is it running? Yeah, there we go. And okay. So we have it 12 this way, and we're going to make it 3.4 this way. And we'll finish the sketch and look at it from a corner. We can turn off the visibility of the origin planes and the origin point. And we're going to extrude it. Choose what we want to extrude and extrude it 1 inch. Okay, and that is the main part of our part. And so let's do this part next. This part is a combination of a few different features. Okay, you know that if there's a dimension on here, you're going to use it. And in this case, the main part, this huge part here, says radius 0.7, and it is radius 0.7. But it's going to be a lot easier if we use a circle tool. So that means it'll be circle diameter 1.4. And so the first thing we need to do is find the center point, or where that circle is supposed to be center pointed, and then make the circle, and it'll be floating in space. So then we need to make this sort of rectangle part, all of that on the same sketch, and then extrude it the full amount. And the center point, like I said, is 1 inch. from the edge of what we have already, and 1.7 inches from the side of everything, which is the same thing as saying centered left to right, because it's on 1.7 out of 3.4 is half. So let's go back. And since our extrusion is going to be the total height, doesn't matter if we're sketching on the top or the bottom at this point. So let's go ahead and sketch on the top. We can look at it straight on. And we do need to use this so that we have something to sketch onto. Actually, yeah, I guess so. So let's get a point. Let's put it out here in space somewhere and dimension its location. The distance from the point to the edge of what we have is 1, and the distance of the point to the side is 1.7. Now this point that's out in space, just floating there, is going to be the center point of the circle. Let's get a center point circle centered on that dimension, and it was radius 0.7, so diameter 1.4. And this is the main portion of it. We just need the sort of throat part there. And I keep using the wrong thing. And the throat part is centered. It's 0.6 wide from there to there. But in order to center it on our center point, I'm actually going to make one rectangle that's this way, 0.3, and another rectangle that's this way, that's 0.3. And then we're going to extrude everything to make that piece. And so we're here. Let's get a rectangle. And from the center point this way, and we're going to dimension the length of the line or the side of this rectangle to be 0.3, and do the same thing the other way. And dimension 0.3. And there is supposed to be a fillet right in here, like this corner and this corner, to sort of round it over with a radius of 0.19. But I'm not sure it's going to work with this modeling software. There's an equivalent one or a corresponding one on this end, on the whole side, but it also may not be possible depending on whether or not we're using sketch fillets or part feature fillets. Let's see if this works as is. It does tend to mess things up though. Sketch fillet. Can we do this and this? Nope, it cannot. All right, so we may just forget that. So we'll finish the sketch and we have this thing going on. Let's extrude, choose everything we want to extrude, which is everything. But we want to switch directions, and 1 inch is correct. I don't know why it's a different color. Why is it a different color? I still haven't figured out why or how the colors work in this software, but that's okay. That's really strange. Okay, well, in theory, we should be able to fillet this edge right here. Oh yeah, there we go. And this, both of them at the same time, to 0.19. And when you hit OK, it gives you that sort of that effect right there. And that is what we should be doing on this one. Okay. And on the other side, we have the corresponding hole, which is going to be made exactly the same way, except with slightly different numbers. The center point is still 1 inch away from the edge, but it's 1 inch in instead of before it was 1 inch past. It's still 1.7 from the side, which is centered. The difference is that the size of the circle is bigger. Before it was 0.7, now it's 0.75 radius. We're still doubling it because we're going to use the circle tool. And the width of the throat area is 0.65 instead of 0.6, still centered. So it's going to be very similar, not exact. So let's take a look. And let's go ahead and start a sketch on the top here. And let's do use so we have something to snap onto. Let's get a work point, put it somewhere where it's kind of close to where we want. And let's dimension the distance from this point to the edge, and that needs to be 1. And the distance of this point to the side of everything needs to be 1.7. And then we need a circle that's centered on that point, which is why that point even exists. And we'll dimension this. It was 0.75 radius. So that's 1.5 diameter, or you could just do 0.75 star 2 if you don't want to do the arithmetic. Then all we need is this sort of throat area, which before we made rectangles like this that were 0.3 because we wanted it to be centered, so we did half in either direction. But we are going to make them half of 0.65 because the total distance needs to be 0.65 from there to there. But you can't just do 0.65 this way, which in theory you could, but you can't because you're measuring from two things that aren't dimensioned or aren't constrained. So it really needs to be half of that 0.65 on this side, which is 0.325, or 0.65/2. Half of it on this side and half of it on this side. Otherwise, it won't be centered. Okay. And now we've got that. Let's finish this. Wait, is that it? Yeah, that's it. Finish the sketch. Extrude. Choose everything that we made. So it looks like that, and switch it to remove, and it knows which direction to remove. Hit OK. And I still have no clue why that other end is gray, but that's fine. And the last feature of this is a couple of fillets like we did before, one on this edge and the other on this edge. And if you're not sure how I'm orbiting, well, I guess like 3 of you actually use mouses, so maybe it's not super useful, but the right click will do the orbit as well as, I guess dragging on that doesn't work, using faces and stuff. But these 0.19 rounded over edges are what this is telling us right there, 0.19 pointing to that curved part. And it's minor, but I think it does add to the effect of making it look real. Okay, then the only other portion of this is or are the troughs or rails, which we are just going to make rectangles on top that are the correct size, obviously, that go the full length, and then cut extrude them. Now, there's actually a discrepancy here. This dimension says that the depth of the cut is 0.1875. And this says the depth of the cut is 0.25 because if it's 0.75 to the bottom and 1 to the top, that means it's 0.25. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to stick with 0.25 as the depth because there's a chance we need to do some math when we're doing constraining for the assembly, and it's one less degree of difficulty for it doesn't really matter though. Okay, so where do we put this rectangle? Well, it looks like the rectangle is 0.4, like the outer edge is 0.4 from the left of everything and 0.75 to this. And if you did the math, it would be the same that way. The same, obviously it's going to be symmetrical. So we just need, our rectangle is going to be 0.4 on the near edge is 0.4 from the edge, and the other edge is 0.75 from the side, and on both sides of the whole thing. So let's start a sketch on the surface. Look at it straight on. I didn't choose. There we go. And we need a rectangle. Make sure to snap it to the edge, but don't snap it to like the center point or any of these points, just something on the edge. And then on the other side, again, it's something on the edge, but not that center point. It won't let you change it. Just somewhere like that is fine. And the distance from the side of the track to the first one needs to be 0.4, and the side of the track to the second one, or the other side of it, 0.75. Okay, and then the same thing on the other side, and we can do it in the same extrusion. Make sure not to snap it to a point like that, just like that. And we'll dimension, same thing from here to here, 0.4, and from here to here, 0.75. Finish sketch, extrude, choose that, look at it from a 3D angle so you know what you're doing. We want to remove, but we only want to remove 0.25. And hit OK. And there you go. That is straight track. All right, go for it.